Okay, so first, everybody, thank you for attending today. I'm going to go through a slideshow. It'll be a lot of information, but I'll try to keep it as reasonable as I can. I can talk fast at times, so if it seems to get too confusing or anything, just chat it in the window. I have no problem stopping and answering questions as we're going along, because sometimes it's easier to answer the question at the moment that we're talking about it. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen and we'll go over the slideshow. Okay, so can everybody see the slideshow now?
Yep.
Yes. Great, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this. So Aurora's been in business for, it's actually going to be 25 years now. So that logo is a little outdated with the 20 plus, but I guess technically we're correct. It's 20 plus, but you'll see that logo change in January to 25. And I think we got to get rid of the gold and go to silver. I think 25 is the silver anniversary. So I guess we got ahead of ourselves with the gold on this one. So these are just a collage of some of our products. This is our building in New Jersey. About 80% of our products are built right here in our building. So you don't hear that too often with US companies building their own products. Well, we do, and it's built right here in our building. That's kind of a little drawing of what our assembly line looks like. Our products have a 5-year warranty. And one of the things I like to talk about with a company is not just about the product, but the company itself, because everybody will tell you they make the best product. It's what us manufacturers do, even though we do make the best product. But what I like to talk about is how are we different as a company? What separates us from everybody else that makes you want to be part of what our solutions that we offer? So it's easy to say we have a new product for the time, but what do you do for the industry? What do you do to make a difference? How are you going to keep moving forward? So one of the slogans that we have is changing the typology of AV. And the reason why we go with that slogan is because since our inception, we have always developed technologies that changes the way we think about doing AV, not in a niche way, but in a mainstream way. So we don't do just what everybody else thinks you're supposed to do because they're copying off of each other. We tend to set a new way of doing something that over time you'll see people follow our methodologies because it makes sense to do. So these are just a few of the examples of some of the things that we've done that you may not realize where the technology came from, even though you're using it in our or other brand products. It had to start somewhere, and you're going to see from this is where it starts. So real-time image rotation, where you're doing jigsaw puzzle walls and vertical video walls, we're the ones who came up with that technology over 20 years ago. Multi-image rotation, same thing. If anybody remembers the Pioneer plasmas back in the day with the 503s, the 434s, and all those plasma models, we made the first cards that would go inside a open card slot for them, and that's when we did HDMI for the first time in 2003. So we've been doing this for a really long time. We were one of the first people to get involved with HDMI, as a matter of fact, long before anyone else in the industry. Web standards-based control system. A lot of people don't realize we've been doing control for over 20 years. The first web standards-based came from us. We made the first smaller form factor control systems, which now we have much larger systems. Transceiver technology, that's where you can make one box and you tell it whether it's going to be an encoder or a decoder, or in some of our cases, we could do both at the same time in one box. We started that 6 years ago. So the first transceiver typology came from Aurora Multimedia, and to date, we do the only wall plate transceivers. Dante with video, we started that 6 years ago. I know you see it pop up recently in the past 2 to 3 years. We've been doing it for 6 years now. It's not new to us. We started that. 10 gig power over Ethernet, same thing. Had to start somewhere. We helped Netgear and Huawei develop their technologies. So, here we are. Directional USB, directional PoE, and a bunch of other technologies, which I'm going to share with you as well. Some new toys that we've been working on as well. So let's keep moving on. We are worldwide. This map's a little outdated, but we're all over the world. There you are. Yeah, we get lots of awards. This hasn't been updated for a while, but we have lots of awards. Different clients, and then you know, certification programs. We have that as well. And then this is some of the stuff we're going to go over. We're going to go over our AV over IP solutions, our 1 gig and our 10 gig solutions. We offer both. Our HD-based T and why we call it supercharged, because we don't do what other people do, and you're going to find out why. Our wireless huddle room solutions. This we're going to kind of skip over unless people want me to focus on it, but this is what we call a temperature tablet entryway experience, where it does the temperature sensing, but it does more than that. It can do badge printing, it can do driver's license scanning, security recordings, facial recognition, digital signage. It's more of an entryway introduction. The temperature sensing is just one small part of what it does. So when we get to it, if you want me to skip over it, I can skip over that if you're not interested in that. We do other distribution products, the typical matrix card cage frames, scalers, distributions, and then our control systems. We do a variety of different control systems. So that's what we're going to be going over. So how do we protect the industry? We design and manufacture our products. We don't have what we call the Me Too products, where you just copy what everybody else does. You buy something from overseas. And excuse me? All right. So
it's nothing.
Okay.
Sorry.
I guess somebody probably had their mic on. No problem. So yeah, so you'll see a lot of companies out there, they'll buy something from China or Taiwan or wherever country. And what they'll do is they'll slap their name brand on it, claim they're a manufacturer, and then you'll notice it looks the same as 10 other products on the market. We don't do that. We make our own products. We make our own code. It's our technology. We own it. And so you're getting what you see. We innovate the technology versus copying, quality workmanship. We back it with a 5-year warranty. We only sell through authorized people, and we do certifications and training. So, and I'll apologize ahead of time. Our products are a mouthful because we jam a lot into it. So one of the things I also like to talk about is you'll notice there are some companies, they make a lot of different products to all different derivatives. We'll make low SKUs, so there's less products to have to support, but what few products we have can do everything that a company with many products can do. So that's another way which makes serviceability a lot better, and you just pick and choose what you need to use from it. So one of the things about 1 gig versus 10 gig. So 1 gig is it's more economical. There's no doubt about it. It costs less. You can use lower grade cable. You can use lower cost switches. Uses less bandwidth, but the quality of the image looks really good in most cases. It's more than adequate for most projects. The 10 gig though, however, is better for the infrastructure. So a lot of people always want a future-proof. And it's kind of a joke. I kind of get a kick out of future-proofing because everybody says I want a future-proof. But if you think about it, there is no such thing as future-proofing. Because amazingly enough, you're going to replace the equipment in 5 to 10 years anyway. So what is really future-proofing anyway? For me, I like to tell people future-proofing is the infrastructure more than anything. Bandwidth always goes up. Equipment comes and goes. So I tell people when they're designing an infrastructure, design with how far in advance you want to do, because you can never underestimate, well, you can underestimate the bandwidth, but you can never overdo it on the bandwidth. So if you know at some point you're going to use 40 gig, then put the cabling in for 40 gig. It costs more to change the cabling later on than it does when you're first doing it. The equipment will come and go and be replaced, but that cabling, that's the tough stuff. That's the stuff that really costs a lot of money to replace at a later time. So I tell people, pay attention. That's where your real future proof is going to come from more than anything. And by the way, one of the ways I like to prove that for people is if you think about it, look at HDMI. You started off at 1.0, then it went to 1.1, then it went to 1.2, then it went to 1.4, then it went to 2.0. Now it's 2.1. Okay, the resolutions changed. It went from 1080i to 1080p to 4K 30 to 4K 60 to 8K. If you think about it, where's the future proofing? Even with that standard, there's no future proofing. You can't take an 8K deck and that is 4K. It doesn't work. So that's why I say plan for what you need within a certain time frame, but cabling is there for a long time. So the 10 gig, you get the windowing capabilities, you get 0 frame latency, perfect image quality. It's lossless. It's like a zip file. What you put in is what you get out. And that's the beautiful thing about it. So application-wise, 1 gig is great for digital signage. We're using it for bar restaurants, the conference rooms, education like K through 12, malls and food courts, hospitality. That 1 gig is more than adequate for that. 10 gig is really where you want to use it for broadcast, where you need that 0 latency. Live events, medical, where the image has to look perfect, command and control, even esports where the reaction times are quick, and esports is a whole nother topic in itself. And virtual reality. These are the things that make a 10 gig definitely better than a 1 gig. And honestly, even in the one thing that should be on this list is really big video walls. When you do a 1 gig system, you're compressing the image. So you're adding artifacts into the original image that you may not be able to see on a regular size screen. But when you blow this thing up the size of a building, those little artifacts that normally you can't pick up on because you're taking away information now becomes more prevalent. When the 10 gig does what it does, you don't lose any information. So when it magnifies it really, really big, you don't see any additional artifacts. You're only working with what was in the original content. So that's another thing I want to point out. It's not that you can't do video walls at 1 gig, but there's a difference between doing a video wall that's like a 3x3 or a 4x4 video wall using 55-inch screens versus something that's going on the side of a building that's going to be huge and magnify itself 20 times its size. So I just want to point that out there. So we break it down currently into 3 series. The VLX has been shipping for 6 years now. So this is not a new product. It's been tried and true, tons and tons of installs. It was the first ever 1 gig transceiver on the market. It does a lot in this one product. It will do 4K 60 420 with only 1.5 frames of latency, or it can do 4K 30 444. It could do copper or fiber in the same unit. It's we got a wall plate versions of it as well, which is another standout feature from us. We were the first people to ever do wall plates, but we take it one step further, which is we're the first company to ever do a transceiver wall plate, and no one still to date has ever been able to copy us on that. So we are still the only company that does transceiver wall plates. And I'm going to explain the advantages of transceiver in a little bit. It can do video wall and image rotations. We do have an online streaming preview in about 320 by 240 resolution up to 10 frames. It can do channel mapping. Channel mapping is a really cool feature. It's another thing that we do that most people take for granted. So you take a spreadsheet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as an example, the encoder next to each number, the OSD label you want to show on the screen. You load it up into a decoder. And now, using the front up and down arrows, you can change channels like it's a TV set. So to the end user, they think they're changing channels on a TV when in actuality, you're changing the AV over IP routings. So really cool feature. And you can use a universal remote with it. Set it for a Philips TV, and the universal remote will work with it also. Or you could do it through a control system. And by the way, a blanket statement for all our products are open API. They're not proprietary. We will work with any third-party solution. Even our control system will work with other third-party control systems. So we're always interoperable in any possible way. We have 232 IR and CEC control. And then there's our Dante option. And this thing only uses 5.8 watts of power, so it's using standard PoE. So why a transceiver? And you're going to see transceiver is a common theme in a lot of our products. So the first thing is single SKU, no stock disproportion. So especially now more than ever, people want to minimize how much they have to inventory, or they might have to buy inventory ahead of time to know that they're going to have the product for their other customers. If you go with the typical encoder decoder typology, if you have 100 encoders and 100 decoders in stock, they're going to get disproportion because one job might need 50 encoders and 20 decoders, and another job might need 70 encoders and 10 decoders, or one might need 5 encoders and 100 decoders. In other words, your inventory is always going to end up mismatched. If I take the same thing and I buy 200 of a transceiver, It can be anything you need it to be at any given time. It could be a 50 by 20, but yet you could still take the remaining 130 and make it into a 70 by 30 system. They're always usable and interchangeable, so you're always doing something with the inventory. Now, the other beautiful thing about it is for the customer. For the customer, for the first time, because you're minimizing the amount of different part numbers in the job site, you can now keep and afford to buy a spare part and keep it on site. So if God forbid something happens, a tech can come, swap it out, get it up and running again, and then send the unit back for repair if need be. And then it can be sent back direct to inventory of the customer for the next time something may happen. When you have a system that has a lot of different part numbers in it, usually no one buys spare parts because you're basically buying a whole nother room to do it. You need the card cage, you need the cards that go in it, you need this. It ends up becoming a lot of different parts. Whereas us, we try to keep it to one or two parts, and that's the beauty of our typology. The other thing is when you're troubleshooting the system, let's say a decoder may have an issue. You don't know if it's the decoder or not. Grab an encoder, tell it to become a decoder, put it where that box is, and now you can see if that location's working. So it helps with troubleshooting as well, whereas normally if you don't have another decoder to swap it with, you have no way to prove it. This allows you to prove it. Now, the wall plates is where it really shines. So most people, they're used to using a transmitter wall plate on their room. That's what they're just used to because that's what everybody's been told, and that's just the way everybody does it. Well, there is a benefit to a transceiver wall plate. So let's say, for example, you put one in the front of the room and one in the back of the room. Okay, you can now tell the one in the front of the room to be an encoder, send the command to the one in the back of the room to become a decoder. I can now bring in a rollabout cart, put a monitor in the back of the room, so when I'm giving my presentation, I can mirror the image that's behind me giving the presentation with a confidence monitor that I just put in the back of the room. Now, I just made a system that allows me to have a confidence monitor just like that for the same cost as a regular system that uses a transmitter only. Well, let's say, for example, maybe I want to do dual monitors in that room. Maybe I take that rollabout cart, I put it in the front of the room, I make the one in the front of the room a decoder, I make the one in the back of the room an encoder, and now I could feed a source in through the back of the room, send it to one monitor, send another computer locally to the room, to the other monitor, and now I have dual monitors. Or maybe I just want both as encoders for two different source locations because two people brought in things. Anyway, the point is it gives flexibility. It gives a lot of power over the room that you've never had before. And that's the advantage of a transceiver wall plate. And the same goes for the box as well, because you can reverse the directions. But that is the power of this. Any questions so far with the VLX? Okay, great. And by the way, real quick, and this is, you're going to see a common theme with it. If you notice on the back of it, we got two inputs and an output. When it's an encoder, you can choose between one of the two inputs. You only can stream one at any given time. And the output becomes a local loop out to use locally. When you decoder, you can use this as two local inputs or the remote stream. So you don't lose a port when you plug it into the TV. You actually gain two ports is what you're doing. So I just want to point that out as well. And then on the wall plate, you'll notice in the transceiver wall plate, you got two HDMI inputs and an HDMI output. And in this series, we have one with a VGA and an HDMI input. So believe it or not, VGH doesn't go away. No matter how hard I try, it just won't go away. And fun fact here, believe it or not, the amount of wall plates we sell in the VLX series, almost half our sales are still VGA. I don't get it, but somehow somebody out there is still using VGA. So VPX series, we literally just started selling this a month ago, and they've been flying out the door. And most of our products, by the way, we do have inventory. Our worst case lead time to date has been 8 weeks, and that was because we had to redesign a product to adapt it to whatever the chipsets are on the market. So just throwing that out there. So this is our latest and greatest. This is what would go head-to-head against the Crestron NVX. This does 4K 6444 with 1 frame of latency. It's using our Mimix codec, which gives incredible quality. We've had dealers testing this, and they're very impressed at how good it looks. They'd almost swear it looks as good as the 10 gig by the human eye. So it is a really good image quality on this one. It does copper or SFP in this, and the SFP can be used for secondary copper if you need. It does have online streaming video preview. Now, the difference with this model is we can do high def streaming preview at 30 frames a second. So you're getting full high def streaming preview, which no other product on the market can do that with 1 gig right now. We have security in here. So we do the 802.1x, the SSH, the HTTPS, and Active Directory. Now, remember that channel mapping function I told you about? Well, in this unit, we not only do that, but we added an electronic programming guide in it, which I'm going to show you in a second on another slide that I will show what that capability is. It does the 232, the IR and CC control, and then it has dual channels of USB 2.0 extension. So what's great about that is, and this is another feature no one else is doing, we can feed 2 independent feeds of USB through the same box. So we can connect this up to a mass storage or a HID device like a mouse and keyboard, while the other one, when it's a decoder, we can hook up a 1080p camera at the screen, backfeed it into the decoder, and then reroute it to an encoder where the computer is. And that's all built into this unit, and it's part of its just base functionality of this product. It does have Dante AES67 option. The beautiful thing about that is it's done in software in this box. So we're not having the Dante chip issue that other companies are having with this particular product, because we built it into the software of the chipset. And eventually down the road, we're going to give you the ability to do Dante Manager to control our units as well, in addition to our own software that controls it. In this series, we are currently doing a transmit-only wall plate, but we are the only 2-gang 4K 60 444 wall plate in the world right now. So that is another cool thing about this. I am working on a transceiver version of this wall plate, which will hopefully be available sometime in Q1 next year. But that is going to be worked on. So there will be a transceiver version of the wall plate. And same thing, PoE. Only 8 watts for the box and 6.4 watts for the wall plate. This is what the electronic programming guide looks like. So it's a nice, beautiful bitmap. This shows up on the decoder. And what it will do is it will show your channel number, the name you gave it, and you can even add a description of the channel number you want to give it. And then you could see a preview of that channel on the decoder. This is another feature no other 1 gig product does on the market. So unlike the VLX, we can actually on the decoder do a picture-in-picture right on the LCD or OLED screen or projector, right like that. So this is another new capability that really separates us from everybody else. Other capabilities, we could do video wall with image rotation, as we talked about, and we're going to be adding into it a KVM roaming feature where you could do the mouse and then roam it across each screen as it will continue on, and as well as a hotkey feature too. So that's another capability that's going to be coming in the next 8 weeks. It will be a firmware update that will be for free, and we'll be adding that capability as well. This is just a nice comparison chart. If you want to see how we fit up against the competition, I know a lot of people use the NVX. Well, this is a real chart. There is no false things about this. It's the real deal. We encourage people to test it for themselves, but as you could see, we do a lot. Not only can we do every base function that they do, we could do things that they can't do, like the image rotation, the HD previewing. They're limited to 1 frame per second and a little tiny tile. We're not. We got an electronic programming guide, the picture-in-picture. We have a front OLED on our box to show you what the IP address is, diagnostics, serial numbers. They don't have any of that stuff. And they even have fans in their boxes. We don't have a fan in our box. Dante through software, so we have no semiconductor delays. The IP-based team manager and Dante manager, which they can't do. The low power, which saves, especially in the larger installs, that saves a lot of costs and energy. And then that dual independent USB, they can't do that either. So this is a nice little comparison chart that we have that, that delineates the capabilities of our unit versus their unit. So that's the VPX series. Any questions so far? Good. I guess everybody's soaking this in. Either that or you're too afraid to speak up, so it's one of the two. Don't be shy if you have questions. And remember, we still have the chat. I am paying attention to the chat. So IPX series is our 10 gig series. Pricing wise, it really isn't that much more the way we've designed it. Compared to a Crestron, it's less money, oddly enough, our 10 gig, because we're just less money than Crestron in general with a lot of our products. So it will do the 4K 60 444 with only 100 microseconds of latency. That's only a few horizontal lines. So this thing has no frame latency. That's why it's so powerful, and that's why certain applications like broadcast benefit from it. It can do copper or fiber. We do the Dante just like our other products. It has to be done in hardware on this one. On this one, the USB is a full 480 megabits per second and is reversible. It does this with only 6 watts of power, which is amazing considering it's doing 10 gig. It does do low power. The Pro version has scaling with only 3 milliseconds, still less than 1 frame of latency, even when we do scaling. We do have the only dual fiber on the market. We could do seamless switching, windowing. This is one of the great things about 10 gig is 10 gig can do windowing, not just picture in picture, but you can do windows all over the place. And it will do video walls, which, like I said, for the larger video walls, 10 gig is the way to go. Wall plates, 10 gig wall plates. So whereas some of our competitors can barely do a 1 gig wall plate, we do 10 gig wall plates. And we have a full transceiver version in a 3-gang and a transmit only in a 2-gang. And that is our 10 gig solution. Any questions on this? So this product, excuse me?
Tem que estar seco.
Nope, I think somebody just needed to mute their mic. Anyway, okay, so this is our next product. This is our IPX UC1. This thing is an animal, and I apologize ahead of time, but it's a mouthful. And every time you think I'm done talking about it, I'm not even close to being done talking about it. Okay, so what is a UC1? It is our unified communication product. The way I like to describe this is a 7x4 scalar matrix with 4 scalars built into it that can do 4K 6444. It has a input card. There's 3 versions of it. There's one with 4 HDMI inputs. This one's going to be shipping first. The others will be following shortly after. We have one with USB-C that you could backfeed up to 100 watts to power a laptop with a display port and an HDMI, or actually 2 HDMIs. And then another one with all the same things, but with the 12G SDI. 2 HDMI outputs, 232 IR control audio. It has Dante in this as well, like all our products do. 1 gig or 10 gig SFP plus, I'll explain that later on. A 10 gig LAN, a 1 gig LAN, a USB extender, and USB-C power up to 100 watts. So now, if you remember, I told you that this is a 7x4 expandable matrix. So I only showed you 4x2. So where are all the other inputs and outputs I talked about? Glad you all asked. So here's where it is. Inside this thing is a 12th gen Intel NUC element processor with up to a 1 terabyte drive, up to an i7 processor with dual monitor out that feed internally back into the switch, which gives you input 5 and 6 internally. In addition, we have a third output that feeds an HDMI to USB 3.1 that feeds back internally into the computer to capture any input that's coming into this back into the computer itself that's built into this thing. So this thing is a full Intel processor computer with SSD drive built into this thing. It also has a full SDVUE 10 gig extension engine built into it. That is your input 7 and your output 4. So what happens is it's a full bidirection at the same time, meaning we don't have to choose transmit or receive. Over 1 10 gig cable, it will simultaneously transmit and receive at the same time. So we could take in a wall plate from 10 gig, feed it back into the source, while at the same time over the 1 cable, go right back out to a display that has maybe one of our extension boxes at the display. So it's got the full extension built into this as well. The computer that's built into it, it can be used any way you want. It is for you to use or your customer to use in any type of fashion that you want to. You can load it with Windows, you can load it with Linux, you could put Zoom on it, you could put Teams on it, you could put anything. It's theirs to use like any other computer. So it's not trapped as a Zoom room or a Teams room. You make it whatever room you want it to be because you're in charge of putting the software on it in any way you want to. The processor itself, on the front of it, we have 2 USB 3.1s built into the front of it. And on the back of it, we got a USB-C that also goes directly to the processor. We also have Wi-Fi using Wi-Fi 6 built into it as well. We also have the ability to have an internal USB 2.0 that feeds the extender to go out over the SDVOE technology to the extensions as well, without having to run an external cable. So it does that as well. Everybody keeping up so far? Because I'm not even close to being done yet. So this thing can do seamless switching. It could do windowing up to quad windows at 4K 6444 per window. So I could say, I want input 1, 2, 3, and 4 to go to output 1. I want input 3 and 4 to go to output 2. I want input 2 to go directly to the screen on the SDVOE, while I want input 1 and 4 to go over to the computer and send it out over a Zoom meeting. So yeah, you could do that. It could do contrast edge blending for side-by-side projectors. It could do chroma key. It could do test pattern generators. It has a built-in vector scope, waveform analyzer, and histogram built into this thing. It could do video wall modes with image rotation. If you do one output only, you can do 1 degree image rotation as well. So you could do those pinwheel type effects if you need to, a 45-degree type of video walls with this thing. This thing's not just a unified communication device. It's an everything device. We will have eventually the ability to do click share-like functionality. So bring your own device wirelessly. There will be an upgrade feature next year where through software, you'll be able to do that functionality as well with this product. You will be able to have an AI option. So this thing has expansion M2 slots built into it, and you're going to be able to put an NPU into it, which is a neural processing unit. And that means that this unit is then going to be able to do not only our React control, but it's going to be able to do people counting, emotion prediction. Yeah, you'll be able to record a meeting and tell at what time a person was smiling or angry. It will make notes of it in a database for you. It can do gender prediction, ethnicity prediction. It can do age prediction. It can also do facial recognition. So that's going to be another add-on feature to this unit as well. There will eventually be an NDI option for it. And down the road, there'll be another card that's going to allow you to do USB 3.0 extension too. So that'll be coming down the road as well. That, I think, just about finally covered it. So any questions?
There's a question in the chat, please.
Can it be used with 5G? You know, the answer is yes, it can, because what you would do is, in this case, you take the USB 3.1 on the front or the back, which has up to 5 gigs of bandwidth. You take your, you could take your card and you can bridge it in there. Now, another thing you could do in theory is if you had a 5G M2 card, you could put it in the M2 card slot, but then you have to break out the antenna for it. That would be the only thing. So if you had to hack it, you could take one of these antennas and steal it and then put it, you rewire it inside and then put it to a 5G. But the answer is, the way I would do it is I'd hook it up to the 3.1 externally because most of the times you're going to buy those little external units and then just power it right into the unit and you're good to go.
Perfect, thanks.
You're welcome. And thank you for asking a question. I feel honored that somebody actually asked a question finally. I was figuring somebody's got to ask a question by now.
Se alguém tiver alguma pergunta nesse momento, ele está disponível para responder. Mais alguém ou mais alguma pergunta?
Liliane?
Sim.
Max, tudo bom?
Oi, Max, tudo bem? Alguma pergunta?
Oh, I just ask, I make some statements in Portuguese, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to know about that, Vitor will translate to you, okay?
Great.
Okay.
So, I'm rusty in my
as
Portuguese, like really rusty.
Okay.
I know none.
I will teach you some Portuguese. By the way, let's go. Pessoal, em geral, os produtos da Aurora, além de ter todas essas funcionalidades que eles têm, eles são um custo-benefício muito bom. Tanto que vários projetos que estavam pendentes ou até mesmo fadados a serem declinados, puderam ser viabilizados com a Aurora. Entenderam?
Muito obrigada pela sua colaboração, Max. Essa é uma consideração importante, que realmente, nesse momento...
Alô, me ouviram?
Todos ouviram o Max? Acho que sim, Max. Ninguém se manifestou, está todo mundo quietinho.
Sim,
Max
Lilian,
fez uma...
estamos ouvindo bem, sim.
Muito obrigada. O Max fez uma consideração importante sobre as soluções da Aurora, que no momento delicado que o mercado de áudio e vídeo tem passado, com dificuldades e prazos de entrega, a Aurora conseguiu viabilizar muitos projetos que estavam, inclusive, para serem declinados, né, por conta de déficit na entrega de outras soluções que foram especificadas de outra marca no início do projeto. Então, além de ser um equipamento que realmente atende com qualidade e um custo bastante competitivo, nós temos equipamento para entrega em tempo hábil. Muito obrigada, Max, pela colaboração. Se alguém puder pedir para o Paul prosseguir, eu agradeço, por gentileza.
Paul, you can continue there.
Okay.
They were talking about how well the product is about the market in Brazil, okay?
All right, not a problem. So, just resetting everything up here. Okay, so continuing on. We'll skip over that. So if you need additional PoE ports on a switch for like as far as power, we make the only 10 gig PoE plus PoE injector. So it will go up to 30 watts and it'll work with 1 gig or 10 gig, and it will add PoE to any one of the ports. It also comes in really handy as a master power source when you're doing fiber. So like if you notice, a lot of our boxes when you do fiber, we still allow you to power it with the copper. So what you could do is, let's say you're doing a fiber install and you have, let's say, 20 of our fiber boxes inside a rack. Well, instead of doing 20 power supplies, you could just either one, use an Ethernet switch to power it, or two, you can just use one of these PoE 24 ports power supplies, and then you can power all our devices with it. So just kind of a heads up on that. This is our software. This is free. It's an enterprise class software. And this is how we can do preview tiles, setting up of units, rapid deployment. Rapid deployment is really cool. So let's say you got a large install with, let's say, 100 devices. You make sure you know physically what serial number or MAC address you put in each location. But then what you do is you go to our software and we'll go out and find all 100 units and put it into a spreadsheet. Then it will give you the MAC address, the serial number, the device ID, whether it's an encoder or a decoder, IP addresses, you name it, it does everything, baud rates, you name it. Then what you could do is you could go into the spreadsheet and say, I want this unit to be a decoder and I want its IP address to be static and here, and I want a baud rate of 19.2. Once you're done doing that, you then re-upload it into the software, and then it will go out and configure every single unit on the network. So that's why we call it rapid deployment, is it makes the install way faster, way easier. Got tagging and macros that we could do, alerts and statistics, like you lose a signal, it can email somebody that it lost a signal, groups and profiles for different password levels and admins and users. We can control what they see. For example, maybe you want somebody to only have matrix switching. You can set them up so that all these disappear and they only can do matrix switching. So it's a very powerful, very flexible type of thing. Here's the thing, setting up the groups and profiles and so on. So very powerful tool, and it's free, and it's web server based on Node.js. So once you load it on one server, it'll then serve itself up to all the other devices through a web page. So it's all web page based, and you can do it on a mobile phone too. So video processing, we have the Ditto X4. It's a derivative of the Ultra. So if you notice, it looks almost identical to it, where it takes the same cards that you see on an Ultra. So it is a 4x4 scalar matrix at a really good price that has all those same capabilities the Ultra had, except the PC and the extender. So this can do the windowing, the 1-degree image rotation, the contrast edge blending, the test patterns, all those advanced scaling-like functionalities. This will do all that. Seamless switching. And it's got a capture mirrored onto the fourth output that you can send out to a PC as well. It's got induction in it as well. And it takes the same exact cards that the Ultra uses on top of that, okay? So that is called the Ditto X4. Not as much as a mouthful, but the nice thing is once you do the Ultra, some of the other products become easier to explain. And there's some of the capabilities if you want to take a quick look at it. And by the way, if it helps, I can make this slide available to everybody after this presentation, so that way you can go back and look at some of these things. And there's some of the capabilities. So ASP42, it is a nice low-cost 4x2 matrix. There's no scaler in it. It's nothing fancy. Ethernet controlled, has a captured mirrored off the second output. Once again, great for huddle rooms, things like that. Line in, out, and it has a Dante option. So although it doesn't say it here, it should say that it has a Dante option. I guess I'm gonna have to add that to it. Yeah, the other one says it, so I'll have to add that to it. It has a Dante option too. HT series. So this is our extenders. And this is where we're really different than other companies when it comes to extenders. So this one could do 4K 6444, Dante ES67 option. So you don't see that too much in HD-based T. And these are IP addressable. So instead of extending the 232 and IR, we can expand them. So we use them as IP port expanders. So whereas a typical AV over IP, you power it with the wall supply, it might power the other side, and then if you want to do 232, you take a control system, you feed it into one side and it comes out the other. We don't have to do that. You can, but you don't have to. What you do instead is you give these IP addresses, you plug it into a PoE plus switch on one side, and then it powers both sides through a PoE switch. Eliminates the power supply altogether. We're the only company who can do this in the world. And then you go after this IP address and you could target the CEC or 232 or IR as a port. So if you put, let's say, 10 of them rack side, you gain 10 232 and 10 IR ports as port expanders. So instead of needing a big control system, you can use a small control system with it, and it eliminates a lot of cabling. So you're getting rid of the power supply, you're getting rid of the 232 cables locally, and you're getting rid of the IR cables that you would normally have to feed in from the control system. So it makes it cleaner and better. It does audio return channel, which you can even feed back into the system. And if you notice, it's got one VGA and two HDMI inputs. So it's got 3 inputs on a wall plate. Any questions about this? None. Now, its successor is the HT-TC1 Pro Series. This is using 3rd gen technology. So this is an uncompressed 4K 6444. So it's delivering the full bandwidth with no latency at all. 1 gig Ethernet can now travel over the HD-based T cable, a full 480 megabit per second with the USB 2.0. It is a transceiver. So this is the world's first transceiver box of a HD-based T product where you can, one box, you tell it which direction you're going in. And later this year, we're going to release a firmware that at lower resolutions, you'll be able to do both directions at the same time with this box unit without switching modes. But to do the 4K 6444, you have to choose one or the other. It's got 4 HDMI inputs and an HDMI out. So for its price point, it's even fantastic just as a 4-to-1 switch. It's a great value. Plus, it could still do the HD-based T, which makes this as an encoder or transmitter, it's equivalent of a 4x2 matrix. So very different animal, very capable. And then we have a transmit wall plate. We haven't made a transceiver yet of the wall plates at this time of the HD-based T, but we may down the road make a transceiver version as well. So this is our latest and greatest HT Pro series. TeamStream. So this is a wireless huddle room solution. It's our equivalent, I guess, of a Barco ClickShare. Good price. It's got a 4K scaler built in it, as well as a switch that gives you a lot more bang for the buck. It's got whiteboard capabilities into it. It's got little built-in control ports as well. So it's a really nice product for doing a lot of different things like this.
Paul, you're frozen on your video, and
Yeah.
we've lost.
I'm having some bandwidth issues. We have a storm here, and I just got a notification we're having bandwidth issues.
Uh-oh.
Is it
Okay,
any-
we could not hear you for the last at least 45 seconds.
Oh, God. Okay, so it is a Barco ClickShare-like product. It allows you to it's like a huddle room. It allows you to connect up wirelessly to the device with your computers. It has a built-in scaler, 4K 60 scaler built in it. It has local switch built into it, so you could hardwire 3 HDMIs or a VGA. It also has control ports built into it that you can assign it functionalities to do 232 IO and relays, so you can have a screen come down when you turn the system on without the need of a control system. Really good low-cost huddle room, bring your own device product. A lot of features for the capability. So this one, should I skip over this, or does everybody want to learn more about this? Aside from the fact that we got a really cool logo. Is that a yay, nay?
Vitor, se você puder nos ajudar nesse momento.
Ele perguntou se ele deve falar um pouco sobre esse tabs ou ele pode pular essa parte.
Acho que ele pode pular essa parte, não é o
You
foco
can-
no momento.
You could skip it, they say. It's not the focus right now. Right?
Obrigada, Vitor.
It saves a lot of slides.
And it's a very pretty cool logo.
Thank you. Actually, I have even an animation where it flows.
Yeah, Paul, I think if it was in the middle of the pandemic, yeah, that would be really awesome. But now we are over that time already, so I think people's not interested in that anymore as much as we were in the past.
But at least they know that they're aware of it, that we have the highest level of specificity in a temperature tablet, because it does take the temperature of your canthus, which is your tear duct. Basically, that's what we're saying. We have it in 3
Okay.
different sizes and with different stands, desktop or, the mount that he's showing you right now. So basically that's it. And then of course, all the different type of management software.
So now the control, which is another big thing people want to know about. So the first thing is we call it REACTS, which stands for action reaction. The most important takeaway is we have a really cool logo, especially the X. And once you got a cool logo, what else matters? But you got to love the X. That's one of my favorite logos. Is I love that symbol there. One of my guy Chris made this in-house, and he did such a fantastic job on that. So it's one of my favorite logos. Although the Tavis really is a cool logo too. So it's an open architecture control system. It will run, we can run this on Linux, Windows, or Android. And we're not talking the interface, we're talking the brain itself can do this. The whole thing is based on JavaScript and HTML. So it's all web standards based, but we have a drag and drop tool that makes it easy to understand and write code for it. So even if you've been writing code, excuse me, for an AMX or Crestron, it will still work just fine. Like it'll be easy to acclimate to it, and usually takes hours or days, not weeks or months, to learn how to write our code. So very easy to acclimate. So we have an 8-inch and 10-inch desktop unit available in white or black. Black tends to be the more popular color. This is a full brain, and that's one thing I want to mention is all our interfaces are brains. This is our 4-inch panel. It's a 480 by 40 resolution. It's running Linux, but this thing has ports on it. It's got 2 serial, 2 IR, 2 relays, 2 IOs, a USB-C, a line out, 1 gig Ethernet. It's got a speaker in it. This thing could play video, by the way. I've seen it. It's amazing. It actually does a really good job of it, but it's pretty cool. You can actually play videos on this thing.
Acho que nós perdemos novamente o Paul.
It has a light sensor on it, a proximity sensor on it, and it's got a light ring that can light up red, green, or blue with this as well. So it's got, so that's for notification if using it for room scheduling or something else like that. And in a second, I'm going to show you in person what it really looks like, because the picture doesn't do it justice. So I'll stop sharing my screen in a second. I guess Patty keeps telling me I keep freezing on and off. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, I can't do anything about that. We have an 8-inch version of this as well. same exact features, but we added an NFC to it on top of everything else. And the bezel's made of aluminum. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go grab my bag over here, handy dandy bag. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for 1 second. So these are our control boxes, which I'm going to share the screen again.
Dos nossos participantes está perguntando se esse equipamento ainda tem a patente pendente.
Does it still have patents to be approved?
Excuse me?
The equipment, the last equipment you showed, the little box, right? Does it still have like some patents to be approved? No.
Some patents to be approved? Is
Yeah,
what you're saying?
exactly.
Yeah, it's going through the patent process. We filed 2 patents against it. One was the design patent, which is for the way it looks and the size and the form factor. And the other one is for the certain functionalities that we're doing inside of it that make it unique in what it is. So there's 2 types of patents. There's a utility patent and a design patent.
Pode traduzir para a gente, Vitor, por gentileza?
Ele falou que tem ainda 2 patentes pendentes para ser aprovadas, né? O patente do design, do desenho, né? Do design dele, e também de algumas características sobre o produto.
Entendi. O Bruno Duarte também está perguntando se esse produto trabalha com sistema de conferência também.
Sir, so Bruno here, he asked if this product can work as a conference system as well.
Yeah, so what it does is it uses the microphones for the conferencing system, and then you use that with like our Ultra, for example. It would complement the Ultra or any Zoom Room product or any Dante-based product. So it'll control the room, and it will also give you the audio from the microphones. So it's combining 2 things into one.
Sim, ele pode ser usado sim como um controle de conferência junto com Zoom ou qualquer produto baseado em Dante.
Ok, muito obrigada.
Sorry.
Thanks, Paul.
Can I make the question again, because I think I was misunderstood? I'm asking about this product. If it can work as a conference system like the NXC from Shure or the Titan system, replacing that kind of system with the new panel with the beamforming microphone.
It's half of that system. It's to do the actual phone call or video call, you need a unified communication processor like the Ultra or whatever other peripheral you're doing. So this is just the control panel and the microphone all in one. Anything else, you need one of the other peripherals to build the system and make it into the final form.
So I got it. I'm not asking about work with a conference system, a video conference system, just a local conference system.
Mm-hmm.
Can it work with as a local conference system?
Once again, it's just the Dante microphone and it's the control panel. What you do with the Dante into is up to you.
Paul, I think he's asking about to use as a paging system.
As a what system?
Can you a paging?
Well, yeah,
paging.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying. I guess that's what I'm trying to explain is Dante audio. So if you put it into a Dante mixer and you tell it that you want the Dante to be broadcast out to a bunch of amplifiers across the facility, and then you hit a button on the page that tells the Dante mixer to allow the audio to go out when you start talking, then yes, it can do that.
Alguma dúvida, pessoal? Alguém precisa de tradução?
Isso ele está explicando assim, que você pode usar ele como um dispositivo Dante, né? E fazer os roteamentos pelo Dante. Você pode fazer o broadcast a partir dele e usar ele como se fosse um microfone Dante.
Ok, muito obrigada. O Paul pode continuar, por gentileza.
You may continue, sir, please. Paul?
I'm sorry, was that?
Oh, you can continue.
Okay, great. I hope I answered the question, but it's all flexible. And the paging idea is a great idea. To be honest, I wasn't even thinking about it, but it would be really cute to just have one at a office area, like in a school, and then have it sitting right there and then hit page and then have the audio go through the Dante mic and then transfer to the Dante mixer, which then broadcasts it out to the amplifiers. that would totally work. And it's actually, I'll add that to my list of capabilities of things it can do. But the important takeaway that I really want you to have with this new product is, on a base level, what it is, it's not restricted from integrating into anything else. So really, whatever you want to do with it, you could pretty much do with it, because it's just putting the audio out there and it's putting the control out there. So we can make this thing whatever you want it to do. It's 100% customizable. So, and I'm going to show some of that in a second. So these are some of our control boxes, different port counts. You know, that's really all it is. These are little cards that can go inside some of our products. So we even could put control inside our products. This is just a port expander box with 1, 2, 32, 2 relays, 2 IOs. And then this is our free software. This is what helps you develop the code for it. And you can make it look any way you want. Very easy to use, very powerful. These are some examples of screens we've made. You can make them look any way you want. Any website you've ever seen, the nicest, the ugliest, doesn't matter. You can make it look any way you want. So these are just some examples of what we've done with some interfaces. The next one's my favorite, this one. It's simple and to the point, but we did a motion effect in it, which you really can't do with most control systems. You can with ours. So it's done in a way where it doesn't distract from this area, but it adds a nice, cool, subtle effect on it to give it that high-tech appeal. So that's why I like this one. I don't know if you can see the motion as well as I see it on here, but it's got motion on it. This is our button panel. And I am going to treat you to something else, by the way. So I'm going to show you something else. So this has 60 different button caps. I am going to be phasing this out. And the reason why is I got a new product I'm working on. And I'm going to share I'm going to take away the share again. And I'm going to show you something new I'm working on. I'm bringing back an old product, but it's going to be redesigned to be cost effective. This is a new button panel. And watch this. So this can go layers deep. These are OLED screens inside the button itself that can go layers and layers deep. So whereas a typical button panel is static and flat, but people like that tactile feel, this one I could say like a DVD, projector, volume control. And if I go to projector, then you can have an on-off and then a back button. I can go to volume and make it up and down. So you can keep going layer after layer, and it will serve up a web page as well to also control the room. And it's going to have 2 serial, 1 IR, 2 relays built into the product. So really cool little box here. And I just remembered something I got to do on my other product. But yeah, anyway, so another cool little thing here. So you're getting another little preview. That will be shipping by Q1, by the way. As you can see, we like to think outside the box. We don't like to be like other companies. Okay. So audio products. We do audio DSPs, 4x4, 8x8, 16:16, 32:32, and we even do a 64:64. We got a card cage version coming out, and this is some screens of what we can do in it. So we have auto mixers, echo cancellation, noise cancellation, matrix, outputs, meters, cameras, everything. So it's quite the impressive software tool set. And it will even create iPad interfaces as well as phone interfaces for Android or iPad. We have a 2x2 ceiling tile that's transducer based. And then we also have matrices, splitters, scalers. We have a new generation coming out soon that's going to integrate a REX control engine into it called the G5 series, but that won't ship probably till the end of the year. And that's called the G5 series. And that will be using HD-based T3.0 technology in that one. And this is just another splitter. I'm kind of breezing over these because these are the quick and easy products. And that's it. That is the presentation.
Oh, Paul, hold on, please.
Sure.
Pessoal, a parte de controle da Aurora é muito aberta. Ela é toda JavaScript, ela é HTML, ou seja, você é praticamente sem limites o que você pode fazer, desde que você tenha uma ideia do que vai fazer. A própria Aurora, ela disponibiliza exemplos que são bem utilizáveis, tá? Vocês mesmos, a condição de vocês aí é muito fácil desenvolver eles, entendeu? E tanto os painéis quanto os roteadores, eu já fiz brincadeira até de controlar eles com Arduino, para poder brincar, como se fosse o Arduino, a central de controle, e eu controlando as interfaces IPX e ALX, entendeu? Para fazer roteamento, mudança de entrada, essas coisas assim.
Max, mais uma vez, muito obrigada pela contribuição. O Max é um grande usuário de Aurora, ele domina bastante os equipamentos, conhece profundamente, então a participação dele é muito bem-vinda, por isso que nós deixamos aberta essa participação. Max, muito obrigada por suas contribuições. Vitor, se você puder pelo menos posicioná-lo sobre o que nós falamos, por gentileza.
Estou fazendo. Well, Paul, as Max was saying, we was talking about the control systems, right? That is open. Aurora is like very free about that. Well, you guys do have some examples, right? And yeah, basically that's it, right? You can go on.
Muito obrigada, Vitor. Thanks.
Yeah, if you want, I can even show you the software right now to show you how easy it is. It's up to you.
Se você puder...
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, vai dar alguns exemplos de software.
Ok.
Do you want me to show you or?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, show them.
Okay, awesome. Give me 1 second. I'll put that up there. Just got to launch it, so give me 1 second.
Always nice to hear from you, Paul, because you are so passionate about your product. So it's always nice here, straight from the source.
Let's see. I'm running an older version of it on my computer. I got to update it at some point, but either way, it will show you and get the point through. It's launching right now. Okay, almost there. I'm going to turn you all into programmers in about 5 minutes. Be amazed. Okay, so this is Core Studio. It is one environment that does both the interface as well as the server-side code. Our units can act as servers and clients, server-server, client-client, master-slave, slave-master, doesn't matter, okay? However you want to call it, it does it all. So the way our system works is we're using Node.js, which if any of you are not familiar with that, it's based on JavaScript and it was written by Google. So this is used by millions of people. And think of it this way, anytime you do a Google search that's using Node.js, that's what we're using inside all our control engines is Node.js. So in this case, it works like a website with hooks to the real world. So a lot of our competitors, what they do is they make a proprietary engine, then they take a web server, it talks through it, and then to the world. When we created ours, what happened is we created our, we made the web server the control engine. So we're not really going through something. It is the engine with hooks to the real world. And that's what makes ours very different and very special. This is also why we're quick to market with our products. So when I showed you that product before, all you were looking at, it looked proprietary, right? All that was a browser in a kiosk mode locked out with a password. So all we were doing was using an HTML web browser. So to the end user, it's locked out, proprietary looking, but in actuality, we're using an industry standard to achieve the result. Same thing goes for the backend with all the code. So we could do something that no one else can do, which is you don't need our tools to write code for this. You don't have to use our tools, but it makes it easier. There's no doubt about it. So here's how powerful it is. The way ours works is events, actions, and variables. Groups is just a way to organize symbols together. So that's all that's for. But an event is a trigger. So what do you have as a trigger? A clock event, a timer event, a telnet or a TCP, a startup. An event is a button for us, for example. So those are events. Under the events, you have the triggers, actions, audio, digital I/O, email. You could trigger another event. You could even trigger a JavaScript. So yeah, you could put your own custom JavaScript into here. Projector link, relays, serials. You get the idea. We have a lot of different things. And a variable is a place to manipulate information. So that's the concept. So let's do this. I have a start of day. Let's make an end of day. So at the end of the day, we're going to do something. Okay. So let's watch this. So we're going to take a clock event because we're going to do it during the day. We're going to drag it into the main group. We are going to call it end of day. Okay, let's have it do it at 5 o'clock p.m. So just like that, we created something that at 5 o'clock, something is going to happen. Okay, so what's going to happen? Let's turn off a projector. We're going to do it with the serial port. So we drag a serial underneath that event because the event triggers the action. And we'll call it projector off. We'll choose the port. You could choose if it's delayed, how many times it executes, if it repeats. If I want to do it on a remote device, you click remote host, you type in the IP address, and then it goes after a different product. That's how you do a remote control product of ours. And then you put the output value. In our case, I'm putting a string that I happen to know for Panasonic displays. In HTML, % is hexadecimal. So I said, do a hexadecimal 2. ASCII P, ASCII O, ASCII, actually let's do ASCII F since we're turning it off, and then a hexadecimal 03. That's it. I just sent a serial command out. Maybe I only want this serial command to be sent out if my projector is already on. So maybe I have a variable, projector stat, and this will only send the off command if the projector is already on. Okay, so we just created a variable called projector stat based on that. Okay, so let's do that. Oops, let's call this projector. Okay, now I want the screen to go up. Okay, great. So let's take a relay, just drag it in here. Let's call it screen up. Maybe it's on relay number 4 and I want to turn it on. Okay, I'm done. Now, what else do we want to do? I mean, you get the idea. I can do anything I want with this thing. Oh yeah, we got to change the variable because we got to turn the variable off. Let's say if it did do this, we'll take that variable, the projector stat variable, and then we'll make projector stat equal to 0 if projector underscore stat. Okay, so I just even modified a variable right now, just like that. So one of the cool things about our logic is we took out the, for those of you who might be programmers, we took out the if then else's, and instead what we did was we just took the logic only of it. And if you can't remember what the logic is, well, guess what we did? Here's all the different functions, and if you click on it, it will insert it into here for some of your different functions that you can do. And we even have an ASCII table built into here as well. I mean, obviously it's more for a programmer, but I'm just kind of showing you, we even took care of the simple things in that. So if you think about what I just taught you, I taught you how to take a clock, set up a time, send the serial command out, tell a relay to turn on, and change your variable status like that. That's it. Let's say I want to get really fancy. Well, at that time of day, I could take a JavaScript, and let's say my tool doesn't have a drag and drop for something that you want to do, and my tool doesn't do it. Okay, this is Node.js. Anything Node.js can do, we can do. So even if my tool doesn't do it, you could still do it in JavaScript. So you could attach a JavaScript file here. You could type in the conditions here. Anything you want to do, you could do right here in the JavaScript. So even our system can break beyond the boundaries of even what the tool itself can do. Or if you just like to write code, and you could just hard code it right in any way you want. So that's just another thing you could do here. Now you need the interface, right? Well, here you go. We could do anything you want to do in here. So I could drag, let's say I want to do a video preview. We could take a video preview, drag it over here. let's say I don't like this color, I can change the color of it. Make the background, let's say green instead. Now it's green. I could do a gradient. There's a gradient now. You know, so you can have a lot of fun with this. You can make it look as good or as not good as you want. You could even change the resolution of the panels you want, choose the start page, even link up CSS files, and even you can even override the panel. So even if our code creator in the panel can't do something, you can insert it in here right into the JavaScript or the HTML code and add in clips that you find on the internet and make this panel do it, even though our tool may or may not have that capability in a drag and drop type of form. So I'll give you an example. I can see this button has slightly curved edges on it, right? And by the way, you can create events and triggers inside the buttons themselves, and then control the up states and the down states and the color themes, and change the CSS class, which can propagate and create a theme into the entire product. But let's say, for example, I wanted to create something where it creates the look of a tab, right? Well, normally, you see I still got a curve over there? If I go into here, I can modify this button inside the code to make this straight down at the bottom, even though my tool won't let you do it. It makes it do it only on the edges of all four. So that's an example of where an override can help you do something that even the tool may not be able to do. And then you can create all different type of things. And here I'm making tabs. And now I made two tabs. I made this tab looking folder, you know, so you can do whatever you want with this thing. It makes sliders. As you can see, this is a slider thing. I could shrink it down. You know, whatever you got to do, change the colors of it. So anyway, you get the idea. That is an example of how you can make a web page in it. And this is a WYSIWYG. This is creating HTML code, by the way. So when you're done with this, and it uploads it, you're going to publish it just like a website to an FTP in our product. And within a matter of seconds, the entire project is transferred. There's nothing proprietary. I could even launch this locally and do it in a local browser and see how it behaves inside a local browser. So, any questions?
No, thank you. It's a very cool explanation.
Alguém tem algum questionamento, alguma pergunta sobre o que ele acabou de mostrar? Acho que não, acho que pode prosseguir, então.
You can go on, sir, please. No questions.
All right. That is it. We're done. Just open for questions and answers, and we made it through it. It was a long presentation, but it's everything.
Pessoal, tem perguntas?
Acho que o pessoal tá quietinho. Alguns
Boa
participantes
tarde, pessoal.
saíram, né?
É o William.
Oh, I do have one new product coming out too, by the way.
O William Marques tem uma pergunta, William?
Sim. Era sobre o sistema que ele mostrou, as telas para agendamento de sala. Eu gostaria de saber se essas telas elas funcionam com o sistema da Aurora ou se elas funcionam com o standalone, com o Google Calendar ou algum tipo de software de agendamento. Queria saber como que é essa funcionalidade das telas para agendamento de salas. Obrigado.
Paul, William Marcus asked here if those screens for scheduling rooms, right? How do they work? Okay, how do they work with Google? Do they work with whatever software? Or you have like a specific Aurora software for that?
Okay, so glad you asked that. It's actually happening multiple ways. So one, we are in the process right now, and Patty doesn't even know this, but we are working with our web programmer right now to create our own that will be available, done in Node.js, and will be our own calendar that will propagate and talk to Office 365 and so forth. So we are looking at doing our own, and that is taking place now as we speak. It's being done because we have another project doing exactly that. In addition to that, we are working with partners who are also going to be able to use that on our panels. So we have third-party companies that do these type of calendar programs that are going to be able to load it in. That will probably be available more towards the end of the year because they need to run on Android. So until I do an Android build of those scheduling panels, they will not have the ability to run it. Whereas ours is going to run in Linux, theirs is going to run in Android.
Ok, ele falou que está no meio do processo de desenvolvimento de um próprio sistema de agendamento deles próprios da Aurora, mas que por enquanto também esses painéis trabalham com o software, né, de agendamento de terceiros, de outras empresas.
Ele está aberto para outros softwares. Ok, muito obrigada, Vitor.
Ok, obrigado.
So yeah, so figure about mid to late Q4 is when it's going to happen. So I'll have more updates. There's a possibility it might happen sooner than that because we are actively working right now on that calendar program. So it could be ready in a month. I just don't know the latest updates on it, but I do have it being worked on.
O programa de calendário pode até estar pronto antes, né, em período de um mês até, mas eles estão ainda em desenvolvimento, esse programa.
Ok, mas então ele estará finalizado em um curto prazo aí, né?
Okay,
Desculpa, William, acho que eu te interrompi, perdão.
Não, imagina. Ok. Tá claro, obrigado.
Tá, a gente agradece. Mais alguma pergunta? Alguém tem mais alguma dúvida?
Acho que o Rafael tinha.
Rafael?
Isso, solicitar ao Vitor para me auxiliar. Na verdade, o meu questionamento é sobre a parte de treinamento. Se existe algum portal de treinamento dos produtos, né, da linha de produtos, aplicações e tudo mais, ou se vocês vão fazer algum tipo de treinamento aqui para o pessoal, mais a fundo mesmo, de aplicações dos produtos, onde a gente pode utilizá-los e tudo mais.
Acho que isso eu mesmo posso responder, Vitor, que por enquanto no Brasil nós ainda não temos disponível, mas que isso também está em desenvolvimento para os próximos tempos, né? A gente também está estudando isso, Rafa. Não está pronto no momento, mas está sendo preparado. Se você puder só traduzir para o Paul, para ele ficar...
Ok, eu estava falando no chat. Paul, Rafael, he asked about training programs, right? And, well, Liliana mentioned to him that it's on its way here in Brazil. They are developing a program for that, for the Brazilian public, right? Brazilian market.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of it.
Oh, the training program. Rafael asked about training programs, right? And for the products, and Liliane said that they are developing a program for the Brazilian market, a training program for that.
Yeah, so there is training available online. We have 7 videos that teach you how to write what we call level 1 code, which will also give you the ability to certify yourself. It's in our website under education. So yeah, I'll share my screen real quick. And I'll show you where.
Inclusive, Rafael, deve acontecer até o final do ano com a Aurora presente.
So you go here,
tá? Aqui no Brasil.
Aurora Academy, and you can see all different videos on how to get trained. Here you go, Course Studio. An example how to do video routing. So there's lots of videos on how to do the control system programming. Even for the audio product, there's training on how to do the DSPs as well. So there is some online training, and we continue to grow the library, but we can also do one-on-one training as well. So that is available if you need. And Yeah, it's you just got to ask for it, and we'll help train and give you what you need. And anything we don't know, we'll make Victor answer you, and that way we put him on the spot.
Yes. Guys, ele falou
Eu-
que tem treinamento disponível, Rafael, no site dele, certo?
Site.
Que você tem os vídeos de treinamento específicos ali para cada ferramenta, mas que também, se necessário, vocês podem requisitar um treinamento individual, ok, com eles. É
Não,
só
perfeito. Acho que
agendar.
o site já atende bastante. Já dá uma visão maior de onde aplicar cada um dos produtos.
E aí, qualquer dúvida também, Rafael, você pode listar para a gente, caso você tenha dificuldade com o idioma, e eu providencio para você um retorno, tá? Com essas dúvidas
Não,
que
tudo bem.
eventualmente possam surgir.
Perfeito.
Ô, Rafael,
eu acho que
se as suas dúvidas forem mais com relação a como usar os equipamentos, eu acho que o site te ajuda bem. Agora, se a sua dúvida for mais quanto às funcionalidades dos equipamentos, o que você faz com cada um deles, aí é melhor você falar direto com a Liliana, que ela já te dá um briefing melhor sobre essas funcionalidades, ou se você passar a demanda que você tem de trabalho que você quer atender e você não sabe bem qual equipamento que você usa, a gente também pode te ajudar com relação a isso, em termos desse
Não,
design aí.
Perfeito, Nelson. Obrigado, Liliana.
Rafael já é um
também.
parceiro antigo, né, Rafa? A gente já
Sim.
trabalhou bastante juntos, né?
Sim, mas de qualquer maneira, obrigado aí pelos esclarecimentos.
Muito obrigada. Paul, please.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Mais alguma pergunta?
Tem alguma pergunta, gente?
Desculpa, Nelson, acho que eu te quase interrompi.
Não, eu ia dizer para o Paul que a gente não tem mais nenhuma pergunta, ou ninguém tem mais nenhuma pergunta. Só queria confirmar, se alguém tem alguma coisa a mais, a gente ainda tem aí alguns minutos, senão a gente pode encerrar.
E eventuais perguntas também que possam aparecer posteriormente, nós enviamos para ele também, se for o caso, ou sanamos por aqui mesmo com o nosso corpo técnico.
Well,
Okay,
Paul,
Paul,
it
so
seems-
we are ready. No more questions, and I think you're good to wrap up if you want, and if you're not, we're gonna end here. And I wanna seize the opportunity to appreciate everything that you have done for us today. All the presentation, everything was very nice having you here.
Thank you very much.
Eu gostaria que vocês informassem para ele também, por gentileza, que eu estou aqui monitorando o webinar pelo WhatsApp, com alguns contatos, né? E ele tem recebido muitos elogios